We are biologically, cognitively, physically, and spiritually wired to love, to be loved, and to belong. And the absence of love will always lead to suffering.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Teen Talks. We are continuing our series of the It Starts With You series. We're excited. This is the fourth one, I believe, and we're going to be talking about relationships and powerful connections and meaningful connections. I think as human beings, it's such an important part of our lives. We're social beings and we're very like tribal and we like to belong to communities and stuff. And I feel like sometimes, especially in today's world where like technologies come about and stuff, we're starting to lose that connection a little bit. And it's something that we should talk about, I feel. So, yeah, Susie, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, well, totally. I mean, here we are. We're on Zoom, so we aren't even, in the same room. In fact, we're not even in the same country, and it works, but it's still different.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, Rehan and I just got a chance to meet each other in person for the very first time when
Yeah.
we were doing the Global Youth Leadership Summit with teenagers, and it was quite. Even though we know each other really well, it was really a different experience to be in the same room together and to
Mm-hmm.
be able to actually, read read body language and just I don't know, it's different. Plus,
Yeah.
he's like a foot taller than me, so I had to do look up a lot.
Yeah. There's something about like an in-person interaction because I think
Mm,
that it's a different experience, right? I think
entirely.
it was really cool to meet you in person for the first time, which is it's just crazy because I mean we've been doing this for over a year now. Um, but when it comes to like, these meaningful connections and stuff, there's also a big question that comes around when it comes to like the quality of the people we hang out with, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And I know we're gonna dive into that, but because literally this series is called It Starts With You. Before we get into all of the relationship stuff and with other people and quality of relationships with others, I think it's important to mention that it literally does start with you. It starts with the relationship that you have with yourself. If you want to have really good quality relationships with others, it all starts with you developing a really good quality relationship with yourself, loving yourself
Yes.
for who you are, having a good mindset, a good outlook on life, appreciating who you are, understanding who you are. And once you do that, you're laying a really solid foundation when it comes to then the relationships that you're going to have with other people, whether that's romantic relationships, whether that's relationships with your family members, with your kids, with maybe your parents, with your friends. And I think it literally, like, just like in the title, it does start with you. So before, taking any of the advice and all the tips and everything, the things that we're going to share in this episode, understanding that I think is a really important thing, because it sets you up for a better life, a better quality of life, and better quality of relationships.
Yeah, because if it does start with you, because if you don't really understand yourself and you don't really have that relationship, that love feeling for yourself and knowing
Yeah.
what it is that you want, knowing what it is that makes you tick,
Hmm.
what it is that makes you happy, what it is that bothers you, all those things, if you don't know those yourself first, then you may attract the wrong people, or you will find yourself in situations where you're in a relationship that doesn't serve you or serve them because
Hmm.
you don't know yourself yet. So if you haven't watched the previous episodes of these, go back and do the work to start to understand what it is you want, to become aware.
Yeah.
Awareness is key. Become aware of your needs, your desires, and who you want in your life. What kinds of people do you want in your life? Those things is where it starts. And then we go into the types of relationships. Relationships are key to life. I mean, think about it. We're tribal human beings. We are meant to be with other people. We're not meant to be alone.
Yeah.
And so the people that you surround yourself with determines the quality of your life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. There's that quote, right? Where
Hmm.
you are the average of the five people you spend the most amount of time with.
Hmm.
And if you do think about it, like if you genuinely think about it, think about the people you spend the most amount of time with, I'm sure you'll be able to identify yourself in those five people, right?
Yep. Hmm.
Um, and it's funny because you were mentioning, like that's we naturally, right? When it comes to nature, as human beings, we are very tribal, right? We're social beings. And I've been home alone for the past, I think 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks, because my parents are traveling. And I've been saying, oh, it's so good. I'm so happy to like have my independence and just be free, get to do whatever I want and everything.
At
But
22.
at 22. But I'll be honest, there are times where I'm like, man, I wish I could share this moment with someone.
Hmm.
It's just a natural feeling, it's a natural instinct. And yesterday I called my dad and I was telling him, I was like, man, I can't wait for you guys to come home. As much as I love being like on my own and having that independence, I cannot wait for my parents to get home so I can like talk to them about the different experiences that I've had and just share things and just be with them, be in their presence. Because it's something that, you know, we just naturally need, right? It's one of our
Yeah.
needs.
Yeah.
It's literally one of our needs. It's one of our six human needs, love and connection, right? So, yeah,
I know. And I experienced it too, as since, I've been gone away from home for over a month.
yeah,
And as much as I did see people I know and love, I missed being with my people at home.
yeah,
And it really affected me because I miss my husband. I miss seeing my kids, which I don't get to see as often as I'd like now because they're out of the nest. But um, it did make a huge difference because I was seeing more of acquaintances versus my people,
yeah.
and it weighs on you. And I just want to read a quote because Brene Brown is a researcher and she researches all social aspects of life. And I just admire her so much. She's written so many great books. We'll put some in the show notes for you as well. But she says this is based on her research. She says a deep sense of love and belonging is an irreducible need of all men, women, and children. We are biologically, cognitively, physically, and spiritually wired to love, to be loved, and to belong. And the absence of love will always lead to suffering. And of
Wow.
course, there's many different kinds of love, and she talks about them in those kinds of things. Um, but belonging is so huge.
Yeah,
And when you have your people and you belong, that's the key to life,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's like that's so profound. It is so, so profound. And I kind of want to bring it back to like, those five people,
Mm-hmm.
those five people in your life. You owe it to yourself as a human being to make sure that those five people are serving you.
Mm-hmm.
As selfish as it sounds, right? Because you've already done the work for yourself at this point, right? You understand who you are, you love who you are. So you have a lot to give, and you will give in your relationships, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a relationship is between two people, right?
Yeah.
So you also have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and that you're surrounding yourself with people who are genuinely empowering you, who are making you
Mm-hmm.
feel better. Susan, you have a good little like analogy or like a little like phrase, right? With the zapping thing.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the things, and we do this with our teenagers that we work with, is we talk about um, friendships. And honestly, when Rayon and I were preparing for today, I was like, oh, do we even need to bring up, good friends and bad friends with adults? But yes, we do, because I think we forget that for us, we tend to sometimes get those friends that may not serve us, or it could be a family member that you maybe need to like set some boundaries with.
Hmm.
So let me just go through my list that we give for our teens on what a good friend is. A good friend is there for you no matter what and will always have your back when things get difficult. A good friend will comfort you when you are spent or crying or upset. A good friend will laugh with you and make you smile. A good friend is kind and respectful and listens to you. That's a tough one because not all friends do that. A good friend is trustworthy and will be willing to tell you the truth. even when it's hard for you to hear. And that is so true. I had a friend, one of my best friends, and she had to tell me something that I really didn't want to hear, but she did it out of love and she made me better. A good friend will encourage you to be a better person, inspire you to achieve more in life. You ever have those friends that you start doing something really good and they they push it down?
Mm,
Because there's friends like that. They don't want you to do better than them. That is not a good friend.
mm,
Okay. A good friend is someone that you enjoy talking to and spending time with. If you're sitting there with a friend and you're like, oh gosh, they just keep, we're going to talk about boundaries on that.
yeah.
So those are good friends. Now we get to the toxic friends. And here's when we're working with teens, they tend to go, ooh, because they're just learning this. But
Yeah.
a toxic friend will talk about you behind your back. Those gossipy people. Whew, and they might even share your secrets. If you have a friend like that, time to
Get him out of here.
get them out. A toxic friend will pressure you into doing things that you don't want to do, and they could force you into making bad decisions. A toxic friend will constantly judge,
Mm,
question you to make you feel bad about yourself. I've had friends like that. It is not a good thing. A toxic friend won't be there for you when you need support or advice. They're too busy or whatever. Their life's more important than yours. You don't need that friend. A toxic friend could take advantage of you and only talk to you or hang out with you when they want something. We've all
mm.
had those kind of people in our lives. Nix them. Out.
Yeah.
No. And
When
you don't have
we
to be mean. You can just say, oh, I'll talk to you later, and start ghosting a little bit.
I think my cousin, when we had him on, he put it really beautifully. He said
You
instead of like
did.
cutting them off, he said like, drift away, right?
Drift away. I love that.
And it's it's funny because sometimes like I know in situations like in my life, I have friends. I call them friends, but they're not the people I necessarily choose to hang out with every single day, right? They're not like my go-to people. But
Mhm.
sometimes I enjoy their company. Sometimes I need company to begin with, and I can go to them and just to spend time with them. But maybe they're always talking about themselves and stuff like that, and that's okay because one of the things that, like we mentioned before, as long as you kind of know who you are and you're able to stay strong that way, it's fine. What we're talking about, especially though, is like choosing those five people, making sure that those five people are the people who you would want to hang out with all the time. Like these are really like
Be
you just
stuck
feel
on an
so at
island
home.
with
Yeah, be stuck on
and
an
not get
island
tired of
with.
them. Yeah.
Exactly. Like you just feel at home with these people. And sometimes it is your family. Sometimes your family, right? Your family members, those are those people, right?
Mhm.
You might be in a situation where you're like, yeah, well, I know all these people, but I don't really consider them my friends. I know some people who feel that way. And you might be like, and these people don't exist. Like people who are like me or who'll be able to be that person for me, they don't exist in this world. I can tell you that there are 8 billion people, more than 8 billion people on this world and on this planet, right? There are at least five of them.
Mhm.
There are at least five of them. We went to an event recently, Susan and I, the Global Youth Leadership Summit by Tony Robbins. How many incredible people did we meet, Susan?
Oh, hundreds.
Hundreds. And a lot of them, at least for me, and I'm sure for you, are like lifelong friends. These are people who we've connected with, and like we've just felt so comfortable and at home with these people that, they're going to be in our lives for a really long time. And I think that that is so incredible. It is so powerful. And these people are out there, right? And maybe you feel like you don't have that immediately and you don't have that right now. Doesn't mean you'll never have it. You can go looking for these people, right? Go looking for
Mhm.
them at, I don't know, networking events or things like you might have a hobby that you enjoy. You might just go and do it and you'll meet someone there. Who knows?
Well, and I think one of the reasons we connected so well with so many of those people was because we all had a similar mission,
There we
you know,
go.
a similar mindset. We use the same language. Not that you have to have people exactly like you, but your tribe, which literally it is, your five people in your tribe, it may be a little more, maybe a little less. You speak the same language. It's like
Yeah.
you can think something and just say a word or two and they go, "Oh yeah," and they can finish your sentence. You know,
Yeah.
those are the kind of people you want
Yeah.
around you. And you're going to have seasonally, we all go through different seasons of life. So, you know, when you were young, when you were a teenager, you had friends in your life. I can honestly say that the friends in my life when I was a teenager, I only talked to one or two now, I
Mm,
think, in my life now, because the rest we moved in different directions, and that happens in life. And um I've got relationships that I had that were super, super close when I was in my 30s.
yeah.
And now I'm double that. And now
Shh.
and they're basically they're basically not in my life anymore,
Yeah.
because we went in different directions. But for that time, it was really close,
Mhm.
you know, and we did share the same language, but then we were
Yeah.
all evolving and changing.
Mhm.
So those relationships served me well
Yeah.
in my 30s and 40s, but right in my life now, they don't.
Yeah.
I've found
I'm
other people.
yeah, I'm experiencing that right now, like in my life today.
Yeah.
I just went through this big change of like moving back home to Canada. I was living in France for a really long time. I've created like so many friendships and honestly like a family in France. And moving back here, it's like there's this big disconnect now because I'm no longer seeing these people all the time. And there was a point where I was like, man, I wonder if I should just keep in touch with these people or should I just like find my own sort of group here in Canada?
Mhm.
But the reality is like there are some people who like yeah, I mean I probably won't be in touch with as frequently, but there are others like there's like a core group of my friends that I don't see me moving on in life without having them in my life, if that makes sense. And
Right.
technology makes it easier, obviously, but you know, we still keep in touch. We still keep in touch, and obviously it's just the beginning. It's just been like what, 2 months, but you
Yeah.
know, it's meaningful because those connections are meaningful. Those friendships are meaningful. These are people who have helped me out in my journey. They've been there for me, and letting go of that is not something that I want to do. So ultimately, it's also a choice, right?
Mhm.
You get to choose who you want to keep in your life and who you kind of want to drift away from. And you making that choice might be one of the most important choices of your life because I think there's a quote by Tony Robbins, I'm pretty sure it's by him, but he says like the quality of your life is defined by the quality of your relationships.
Mhm. 100%.
And it's like, well, if you have those really strong relationships that are filled with love, joy, happiness, and that you feel comfortable in, then the chances are you're gonna feel that way in your life on a daily basis, right?
Right. Yeah.
So you get to choose ultimately, which is pretty cool. Which is pretty
It
cool. You get
it
to
is pretty
choose
cool.
whether you want to stay connected with certain people, whether you want to drift away from people, whether you want to find new people. You get to choose. So yeah.
And you also have to consider the time that you have in your life, right? You have
Mm,
only so much time, and that time is so valuable that you don't have enough of it to have all these friendships that you have to work on keeping together, because
yeah,
being a good friend takes time. If you're not willing to put the time into that friend, then that's not a close friend.
yeah,
And those take time. And if you have too many, then you're getting pulled apart. So
yeah.
find those people that lift you up, that want you to do better,
Hmm.
that support you when you need support. Those are the people you want in your life.
Yeah,
And if they are not that, then you use I love the drift away, just drift away. and and then move on, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
move on.
And and people change as well. People change over time, and that's
Hmm.
okay.
Hmm.
They might move in a different direction than you. They might move in a different direction and then come back in your direction.
Yeah.
Right? You might have a disconnect with someone and then reconnect with them later on in life. You don't know how things are going to play out. But I think my opinion on that and my view on that is just focus on the now. Focus on right now. You know,
Mm-hmm.
what is it that you need right now when it comes to a friend? Who are the people that you need in your life? And then from there, you're able to make that decision about, okay, who do you want to spend more time with? Who do you want to be closer with?
Mm-hmm.
Because now is the only thing that we have control over. We have control over this moment. And I think the reason why it's better to drift away from people than to just cut things off like abruptly, and because that creates some tension, it creates some negativity, and you don't want that because you never know how you will evolve. You don't know how others will evolve, and how maybe
Exactly.
eventually at some point in your life you'll be able to find each other again and reconnect, and it'll be the most beautiful relationship that you've ever experienced.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
all these
don't
things,
you want
yeah,
to build, you don't want to like burn bridges, you know?
yeah,
We talk about that a lot in careers, when you're leaving a career, don't burn bridges with the company you're working for. But that's the same in all relationships.
yeah.
You don't want to be that person that burns the bridges because you may need to have them in your life at some point. You may
Mm-hmm.
want to serve them, they may want to serve you. If you have not broken bridges, but just kind of drifted,
Yeah,
then you can come back and rebuild if needed. So,
yeah.
that's something to really think about. And, you know, one of the other things that Tony says is proximity is power.
Mm,
So the people you have around you, the proximity that you're in of these people, you want to be in a circle of people who are going to help drive you,
yeah.
who are going to help your energy
Mm,
be lifted and energized and encouraged, instead of being an energy zapper who just pulls that energy. Those people that you just, oh my gosh, when you're in their presence, they just zap your energy and you leave
yeah.
them feeling like, oh, you know, those people
Mm, yeah.
drift,
Yeah.
drift.
Drift away.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, your relationships are key to your life,
Hmm.
and try to just remember that you're in control of who you choose to hang out with, and choose wisely.
Yeah.
It's energy zappers and mean people are not worth your time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
once you know yourself, you'll be able to determine who those are.
Hmm. And you might be in like a transitioning phase where you're like trying kind of drifting from the people you currently hang out with and trying to find new people, and that might be a lonely process to be in. But again, if you have a good relationship with yourself, then you can be alone, but you'll never be lonely. Does that make
Mm-hmm.
sense?
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, you might have to go through a season where there's a bit of solitude, and that's okay as well. It is
Mm-hmm.
okay. It's good
For
sometimes
sure.
to be on your own and to develop that relationship with yourself. Um, but at some point, you do have to also start, seeking out others because it's nature. It's human nature.
Yeah, and one of the things, because I'm assuming most of the people who are listening are parents, and so
Hmm.
when my kids were at home and in school and all that, it was very easy to meet a lot of people because
Mm,
we'd go stand on the sidelines at soccer games and we'd be on the PTA or all of that. So you meet lots and lots of people.
yeah.
And it's weird when all of a sudden that stops,
Mm,
because that's happened to me now. I don't go to soccer games anymore and stand on the sidelines to watch my kids. I don't get to go to school and rah, rah, rah. They're all
yeah.
done. And and so that has changed my life significantly as far as the amount of people that I'm conversing with on a daily basis, that I'm, sharing, I don't know, sharing discussions about our kids, sharing responsibilities, that kind of stuff. It's
Yeah.
ceased.
Yeah.
So now have, then you really find out the people you want to hang out with,
Yeah.
because you've experienced so many. And then
Hmm.
all of a sudden, gone.
Yeah.
And only those ones who you choose to really go, I want to go deeper,
Yeah.
are the ones that you choose to keep in your life.
Yeah.
So again, a season.
A season. Yeah. And don't be afraid to reach out to people, you know? Even if you haven't connected with them in a while, like
That's
just
a
like,
good point. That's a
yeah,
really good point. And I remember hearing this thing of just text somebody every day.
there we go.
Give it an encouraging text to someone that you really care about
Yeah.
every day or every week. Pick somebody.
Yeah, it goes a long way. Sometimes
It
I do that. I
does.
go through my phone contacts. I just find someone random and I'm like, oh, I feel drawn to like connecting with them. I'll just send them a message and say like, hey, I hope everything's okay. Hope you're doing well. Just wanted to check in, that type of a message.
Hmm.
Um,
Or
and
I'm
usually it
thinking about
leads to
you.
like us like, yeah, having a conversation. It's a really nice conversation and it's always nice to do that. It's always nice to connect. So, yeah, don't be afraid to be the person who takes that first step and who just goes for it.
Yeah, because to be honest, um, I've been more, with us doing this online and working from home, I tend to pull back more because then I'm less out.
Yeah.
So then I have to push myself to go, I need to meet a friend today because I
Mm,
need to be lifted up. I
yeah.
need I need to talk to somebody and I need to get real.
Yeah.
So I have to push myself to reach out to the friends that are my people and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, I need some time. I miss
Yeah.
you." I tend to forget to do that, and I think it's really important. And
Yeah.
then when you see them, it's like, oh, I just got to spend 2 hours with somebody who lifted me up and who I lifted up and made a connection. And then it just brightens your world,
Yeah.
you know? So anyway, it all starts with you. Know and love
Exactly.
yourself first, then
Yeah.
give love to those who are your people and allow them, which I have a hard time doing as well. Allow them to serve you.
Mm.
I tend to give, 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 give. My friend told me this the other day. She goes, "Do you ever want something from me?" And I'm like, no. But she wanted to serve me. Allow people to serve you too. I
Yeah.
think we forget to do that.
Yeah. I love that.
Anyway.
Well, thank you all for tuning in to this episode. Feel free to like the podcast, subscribe if you're on YouTube, follow the podcast if you're on Spotify or listening to this anywhere else on Apple Podcasts, wherever. Um, Feel free to leave a comment, ask us questions if there's anything that you want us to dive into in future episodes. And yeah, we appreciate you for tuning in.
And we
Uh,
have one more in the
one more.
series,
Yeah.
number 5. We're going to be talking about focus on what you want and taking action. So we've got some strategies to help you with
Hmm.
that and how our brain works.
Yeah.
So please join us next week.
Yep. It's gonna be a good one.
Mhm.
It's gonna be good. All right.
Okay.
Take care, everyone. See you next week.
Mhm.
Bye.
Bye.